Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Monday. I hope you all are doing really well. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. We're going to sit down this evening and talk about Anthony Gordon, his progress so far this season, the Anthony Gordon that we're seeing now compared to the Anthony Gordon that we saw not only last season but of course the season before when he first broke into Everton's first team squad, and his place in the Everton squad and where his future lies within this squad as well, because I think it'd be a real shame for Anthony Gordon to lose his place in this Everton squad, specifically considering that, you know, he's been arguably one of our best performers over the last couple of weeks. You know, he's getting involved on the pitch, he's throwing himself about, he's enjoying the physical side, but he's also showing his quality going forward as well. Creatively, he's put a couple of really good balls into the box, and whilst he hasn't directly been involved with any goals or assists, he certainly looked like one of our most exciting players going forward over the last few weeks or so. However, there mightn't always necessarily be a place for Anthony Gordon in Everton's starting 11. Of course, we are, you know, only a matter of weeks away from Abdoulaye Doucouré making his return from injury, touch wood, and of course within the next month or so as well, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, hopefully before the Merseyside derby. And when Abdoulaye Doucouré and Dominic Calvert-Lewin both come back to fitness, is there a place for Anthony Gordon in this Everton squad? Because the six in front of the back line then looks like Alan, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Damari Gray, Richarlison, Anzos Townsend and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So where does Anthony Gordon sort of fit in there? Does he then become a player that sort of comes off the bench to try and make an impact? Or, you know, does he have to work even harder to fight his way in? We're going to get into all of that discussion in today's live stream. I want this to be a little bit of an interactive one as well. So if you're watching live, please do get your thoughts on Anthony Gordon and his progress so far this season, and how well you think he's done in the live comments, and we'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. And if you're watching the YouTube video, don't forget to leave your comments down below and we'll get involved with them as well. Hit the like if you're enjoying as well, and don't forget to subscribe. So we'll kickstart by talking about the international break. Obviously it is the international break. There was no footy last weekend, another weekend without Everton. Again, I've said it before, I said it during the last international break. I think I sort of flip-flop during the international break of really liking it and really disliking it. There was a point on sort of Saturday morning where I woke up thinking, oh yeah, get in, what, you know, Everton aren't playing today, what other footy's on, what footy can we watch? And then I realised that obviously, you know, there wasn't any footy on, it was all internationals. You know, so it's periods like that where you sort of think, oh, the international break again. But it is good, you know, to get a rest away from Everton, I suppose, isn't it? Certainly given the way in which we've been playing recently. I know we were a lot better against Spurs last time out, but it hasn't been very good since that Manchester United game, which I think was before the last international break. Sorry, the one before the one that we're on currently. So it is the international break. Anthony Gordon has, of course, been called up for England under-21s for the first time in his professional career. He's got an England call-up. He had an absolutely dream debut a couple of days ago, scoring 2 goals in England's 3-1 win against Czech Republic. He scored the opening goal and then the second goal for England as well. So we had a brace within the opening 17-18 minutes of the game. Unfortunately, didn't go on and get his hat-trick. However, the 2 goals for England under-21s will have done him a massive amount of confidence, and obviously will have given him a massive boost, you know, as of how well he's performed so far this season. You know, again, he completely deserved this call-up, considering how well he's played in the last couple of weeks and how much of an impact he's had on this Everton team. You know, he's looked like the best Everton player in a number of games recently, and granted, okay, you know, a lot of those games we haven't performed very well and a lot of players have looked absolutely dreadful, but you know, credit where credit's due to Anthony Gordon. He still stepped up, he still worked hard, he still looked, you know, like our most dangerous player going forward. So he completely deserved that England call-up, and again, absolutely fantastic to see him grabbing it with both hands and getting a couple of goals. I'm almost certain that, you know, he'll now be in the eyes of England under-21 manager Lee Carsley for the foreseeable future. Certainly if he continues playing in the way he's playing for Everton and continues to be given that trust by Rafa Benitez. And I think Rafa Benitez is a focal figure when we're talking about Anthony Gordon's progress so far this season, because Anthony Gordon, obviously prior to Rafa Benitez coming in, he never really got much of a chance under Carlo Ancelotti. There were times when he'd come off the bench and he'd look good, he'd look He'd look exciting, he'd look like he was going to bring something, but you always got that feeling that Carlo Ancelotti never really fancied Anthony Gordon. You sort of had that feeling with a lot of the young players last season. Carlo Ancelotti just wasn't really a manager that gave a lot of young players opportunities, other than in the Carabao Cup early rounds. The likes of Anthony Gordon, obviously, Jarrod Branthwaite before, he went out on loan. We had Niles Nkunku. These were players that there was various opportunities last season for those players to be given opportunities. Certainly Niles Nkunku, of course, when Luca Dean picked up that injury early last season and he wasn't given that chance. And the same with Anthony Gordon. There was various times that Anthony Gordon could have been given an opportunity to get involved and prove himself, and he just wasn't. Obviously, he went out on loan to Preston. That wasn't a great loan either. And he just wasn't given that trust from the manager. He was in Carlo Ancelotti's first season, and I think that was partly because Carlo had his hands tied behind his back a little bit in regards to what he had available to him, and therefore Anthony Gordon was given some game time, and I actually thought he really, really impressed towards the back end of that season. But of course, when we went into that summer under Carlo, when he had some money to spend, Anthony Gordon sort of fell further and further down the pecking order, and again, as I said, it was a different Anthony Gordon to what we're seeing now, not only because Rafa Benitez is giving him opportunities, and maybe the reason for that is in a similar reason to Carlo Ancelotti in his first season, in that Rafa hasn't really had an awful lot to deal with in regards to financial fair play. He's had his hands tied behind his back a little bit. Injuries, he's had his hands tied behind his back a little bit. So therefore, he sort of almost had to rely on Anthony Gordon, look at Anthony Gordon and give him an opportunity, because we haven't got many options. But I think it would be unfair to say that's the only reason Anthony Gordon is getting a chance in this Everton side is because of injuries. I think it would be unfair to say the only reason we're seeing Anthony Gordon as much as we are at the moment is because other players aren't available. I think the reason we're seeing Anthony Gordon at the moment is because he is earning his place in this Everton side. Certainly earning his place in this Everton side over certain other players that play in his position or can play in his position. And as I said, I've said it before on a number of different live streams, we're seeing a different side to Anthony Gordon this season, and I've got no doubt about that. Anthony Gordon of, last season or the season prior, again, technically he was always very good. There was always that potential that he'd go on and create chances or score goals or create goal scoring opportunities. He was doing it in the under 23s, every single week. Like it was just simple. Playing in the under 23s for Anthony Gordon was an absolute piece of piss, for lack of a better phrase. But the one thing I was heavily critical of him, and a lot of Evertonians were heavily critical of him, and it was probably the biggest reason as to why he maybe wasn't getting those chances under Carlo Ancelotti, is because when he wasn't involved in the game, he would just sort of stand there and wait for the play to come to him. And in a Premier League game, you can't really do that. You can't really just stand round and say, right, okay, well, when the ball comes to me, I'll try and create a chance. I'll try and take a player on or put a cross in. But if it's not going to come to me, I'll just sort of hover around this area and almost just, allow the game to pass me by. And again, I think we saw a lot of that from Anthony Gordon over the last couple of years. And that, again, probably just because he was young, naive, immature, a young lad playing Premier League football. He was probably just thinking, I'm just going to stand around until I get the ball and then I'm going to do something magic. And that caused, obviously, him to, not get an awful lot of opportunities from the first minute. And when he was coming off the bench, it meant that every time he picked the ball up, he'd try and take 33 people on and score a worldie from 35 yards to prove a point. Whereas under Rafa Benitez, it seems like he's worked either directly with the manager or directly with somebody at the football club on the coaching staff to work on that part of his game of, getting your head down and putting yourself in the game, not just waiting for the game to come to you, but going and grabbing the game. And I don't know if anybody agrees with me here. I might just be talking completely utter nonsense, and you might be sitting there thinking, Cam, you're chatting shit. But from what I've seen over the last few weeks from Anthony Gordon is that he's actively going out and bringing the game to himself, by barging people out the way, using his strength. He seems to have gained, physicality-wise, he seems to have gained an awful lot over the last 12 months or so, certainly since lockdown. Obviously, we saw a lot of videos of him during lockdown with various different PTs and working on his physique and working on his body, and you're starting to see the results of that now. He seems an awful lot stronger than he was, at this point last season, or at this point last year or the year before. But as I said, he seems to have a bit of of grit to him. He seems to have a bit of bite to him now. He's no longer this young lad who just really sort of stands in his position and waits for the game to come to him. He's this young lad who again, has almost got a bit between his teeth, a chip on his shoulder. If an opposition player's got the ball, he's going to go and try and get it off them. He's not afraid to throw a challenge in. He's not afraid to push a player to the side. He's strong, he's quick, he can beat a man, but again, he's an excitement. He's not somebody you look at now and go, oh, I wonder what'll happen if he gets the ball, but if he doesn't get the ball, he's just going to stand around and do nothing. He's a player you look at and, we're actively hoping he goes out and gets the ball because he can make the difference, and that obviously lifts the crowd, and I'm sure lifts his teammates as well when they're seeing, a young 19, 20-year-old lad, taking it upon his own shoulders, using his own initiative to go out and make a challenge and pick the ball up and use his strength and use his physicality. Again, as I said, in every game I've watched him this season, there's been at least one or two times where the opposition have had the ball and Anthony Gordon's gone over and nudged them to one side or again, got involved in that physical element of the game, that physical side. Even if he's given a foul away, he's gotten involved in that physical side of the game. And that's ultimately, as fans, that's what we want to see. We want to see players getting involved. We don't want to see players standing around and sort of just, again, trying to be involved as least as possible and earn their wage off, basically just standing around, not doing anything. You want to see players getting involved. You want to see players throwing the challenges in, using their body, using their strength. And that's what Anthony Gordon seems to be doing this season. And I do think that has come from working with the manager, and I think that has come from working with coaching staff as well, because ultimately, again, I don't know what conversations Rafa Benitez has had with Anthony Gordon. I don't know what conversations any of the coaching team have had with Anthony Gordon, but what I would assume is that Anthony Gordon was probably on a list of players that could have potentially gone out on loan last summer, again, to get himself a bit more experience, and maybe to sort of again to grow a little bit as a footballer out in the Championship or out in League One, etc. Like the plan was, I suppose, when he moved to Preston. But I think because Everton were unsuccessful in bringing in another wide player or another attacking player, I think the managers possibly almost looked at him and gone, listen, you're not going out on loan now because we can't afford to loan you out because we've got no players and we can't bring anybody else in. So instead of just again hovering around until January and just again coming off the bench for the last 5 or 10 minutes of games and not really doing much, work on this, work on that, work on the other, force your way into this team. And that's what he's doing, because again, we could have easily saw Anthony Gordon this season go into that sort of, right, okay, I've not been sent out on loan this summer. The idea probably was for me to be sent out on loan, so I'll just sort of hover around. Far too good for the under-23s, so he was never going to go back into the under-23s. And ultimately, again, probably in the summer, I think a lot of people would have said not good enough for the first team. So just hovering around that, being on the bench every game, some games coming on for 10 minutes and not really doing much, other games not coming on at all, just filling a space effectively. And it was clear that Anthony, in his own mind, didn't want to be that type of player. He didn't want to be a space filler, didn't want to just sit round and, again, be somebody that people looked at and went, oh yeah, he's never going to do anything really because, he's not physical enough, or he's not fast enough, or he's not interested enough. He's almost sort of took this opportunity of not going out on loan and staying at the football club and snatched it with both hands and almost seemed to say, well, right, okay, I'm going to get to a point where, and again, this might be I might be making this up in my own head, but the way I see it, it seems like Anthony Gordon's got to a point where he's thought, right, I haven't gone out on loan in the summer. I'm going to get to a point where when we get to January, a loan isn't even on the cards, because the manager, the director of football, the coaching staff are looking at me saying, this lad is a pivotal member of this team. We need him for the rest of the season. And as I said, okay, he hasn't scored or he hasn't got any assists so far this season. And listen, there's an absolutely, I don't think he's got an assist this season. He certainly hasn't scored, and there's a game coming up within the next couple of weeks or so that would be an absolutely prime time for him to score his debut Everton goal. If you can wait till the 1st of December, that would be absolutely unbelievable. But that's the telling of, when we can sit here and sit down and do a live stream and have a conversation about a young lad who has impressed massively whilst not scoring goals or whilst not getting assists, and he's an attacking player. That shows how well he's progressed, doesn't it? Because typically, if you'd have said to me, in August, you'll be sitting down in November talking about Anthony Gordon. He won't have scored the goal so far this season. He won't have gotten involved in many, directly in many goals in regards to assists, but you'll be sitting there having a really good conversation about his progress and how much he's improved. As I said, well, how can we have that conversation if he's not getting involved in goals? Because ultimately, if you're a winger, if you're a wide player, if you're a forward player, it's all about, what you're doing in that, in terms of your final product, what you're creating, what you're scoring. If you're not doing that, then how can he have had a good start to the season? But he has, because he's improved, for me anyway. Don't know if you'd agree, but for me, he's improved and he's progressed massively, from the Anthony Gordon that we were seeing last season and the season before. He's grown up a lot, he's a lot more physical, but as I said, arguably, the best thing to see, and certainly I think for us as Evertonians, the best thing to see is he seems to have that grit. He seems to have that bit between his teeth, that chip on his shoulder, that point to prove, which is exactly what we need. We need more Everton players with that attitude. We need more Everton players with that Anthony Gordon style. I've got a point to prove at this football club and I'm going to go out and prove it. No point in having players that are standing around either thinking, yeah, I don't want to get involved here because I don't fancy the fight, or standing around thinking, I've got nothing to prove here and I'm bigger than this football club. I don't need to be here. These need me. We need a squad full of players who every single time they go onto that pitch, their mentality is, right, I've got a point to prove here. I've got to prove to people that I deserve to play my place in this Everton team. I've got to prove to the fans, the manager, the director of football that I deserve to be here. Because if we had a squad full of players with that mentality, we wouldn't have lost 5-2 to Watford a couple of weeks ago. We wouldn't have lost to Wolves the other week. We wouldn't have lost to West Ham a few weeks back. If we had a squad full of players with that mentality, the atmosphere and the feeling around the club would be a lot happier at the moment, because you don't have that players that don't care but have the mentality of, I'm going to go out and prove myself. If you've got the mentality of, I need to go out and prove myself, then obviously you care, because you care for what you're doing. If you haven't got that mentality, then there's a lot of players, I think, at Everton who are just sort of happy to ride the wave almost, pick up their wage and see what happens, whereas Anthony Gordon isn't one of those. Anthony Gordon is clearly either being told he's got to go out and prove himself, or he's took it under his own initiative to think, right, okay, I don't want to be playing in the Championship for the second half of next season, and then, getting to next summer and the club looking at me going, well, are you good enough to be here? I want to get to a point where, if that conversation even comes up, the manager's saying, no, not a chance, Anthony's staying here, he's a pivotal member of this squad. And as I said, I think he's been really, really, really impressive. Let's get into a quote from the boy himself then, because he has been talking over the last couple of weeks about his Everton start to his Everton season so far. He has said, I see myself as a game changer and a match winner for Everton. At the minute, I'm playing really well, but I'm not winning games for us. I am still nowhere near where I want to be. So that is obviously really, really positive stuff from Anthony Gordon there. Again, he's not coming out and saying, yeah, listen, I think I've had a good start to the season, I've scored a couple of goals for England, I'm dead happy with where I am. He's coming out and saying, okay, I've improved, but I'm still not winning games for Everton. I'm still not scoring important goals. I'm still not where I need to be. Always wanting to improve, always wanting to become better. Thomas in the comments says Richie's the same. Richie is exactly the same. Always a point to prove. Always a chip on his shoulder, a bit between his teeth. That's what you need. Anthony Gordon himself coming out there and saying, well, yeah, okay, I've had an alright start to the season, but I'm not winning games for Everton. So that's not where I want to be. I want to be at a point where, if we're having if we're, let's say, drawing 1-1 with Watford at home, or with Wolves away, or whoever, I'm popping up and scoring the winner. I'm winning the games. I'm bringing those moments. Because at the minute, he's right, he isn't bringing those moments. As impressive as he's been, and as much as I said, he's improved as a footballer, and he looks a lot more dangerous going forward than what he was 12 months ago, 18 months ago. He's still not winning games for us, so there's still no end product there to speak for. So it's a difficult argument to have, because a lot of Blues would probably sit there and go, Cam, you can talk all you like about him having a bit between his teeth and getting involved in the physical side and throwing the challenges in and creating chances, but he ain't scoring goals and he ain't getting assists, so what's the point? And again, it's very hard to argue against that. So it's important, and it's really, really refreshing to hear the player himself come out and say, listen, I still have got a lot of work to do. I want to be winning games for this football club, and I'm not. And Rafa Benitez has spoke today, actually, or certainly Everton have published the article today of Rafa Benitez talking about Anthony Gordon. He's spoken about him before, and spoken about obviously his progress and his position in the Everton squad, and basically he said it's up to Anthony wherever he wants to be. If he wants to be a member of this first team, he's got to work hard and show me why he deserves to be a member of this first team, and I think that's really helped Anthony Gordon as well. But the manager has said for Anthony to go and get a couple of goals on his under-21 debut was fantastic. I'm delighted for him. He's been getting a good bit of playing time in the first team lately, so I'm sure he feels he's sharp and in form. He's been given some good opportunities from the manager this season, and Rafa Benitez has obviously got confidence in him and gave him a pathway. Sorry, this isn't Rafa Benitez talking. This is, I believe, Paul Tate, who's Everton's under-18s manager, talking about him. He also said he's showing the potential we always thought he had. I think he started to mature as a person as well. He's at that age now at 20 where he's starting to grow up, and I think he's showing that in his performances. He also said he always had potential, but he wasn't always a high flyer. He went through what a lot of young boys do when they have growth spurts and start growing into their body. That can affect you, and sometimes you can lose a bit of confidence. That's something Anthony never lost. He always had belief in his own ability. We always felt once he matured physically, we would have a player on our hands. He's done that now. I believe he is one of the quickest at the club, over 10 and 30 metres. So physically, he's got all the attributes, and I always felt that he had the Premier League quality in terms of his in possession work. He can go past players and he can finish. He's always stood out in that regard. So really, really positive words there from Paul Tate, who of course is Everton's under-18s manager and has worked closely with Anthony Gordon throughout a lot of his time at the football club in the academy, and obviously still sees him every day, at USM Finch Farm at training, and for him to come out and again say that, he's matured into his body makes a lot of sense, because you can see it on the pitch. This was a lad, as I said, who 12-18 months ago looked like a young boy, effectively a child on a Premier League football pitch, almost having that sort of air of confidence about him, but not really having any end product about him. Then last season we saw he didn't really have the physical side, the physical element to keep up with the Premier League. Now he's growing into that, and we're starting to see that more and more. Which is absolutely fantastic. And as I said, you've got Rafa Benitez, you've got Paul Tate, you've got Lee Carsley, England under-21 manager, all coming out and speaking very, very highly of Anthony Gordon recently. Also, fellow footballers, Ben Foster. Now, we all know Ben Foster. I have a little bit of a laugh about him. I really like Ben Foster. Didn't like him 3 weeks ago when Watford come to Goodison Park, but I really like Ben Foster. I think he's dead honest. I know a lot of Watford fans don't agree with his YouTube channel, and if he was an Everton player, maybe I'd have a difference in opinion. But Ben Foster done a podcast over the last couple of weeks or so, and he was talking about Anthony Gordon, and he was specifically talking about Premier League players who you sort of know. I think the conversation was about Ronaldo or Rooney or something like that, and he wasn't comparing Anthony Gordon to any of those players before you start. But he was basically talking about, it gets to the point where you can sort of see in a young player that they've got something about them. They've got that bit of potential, they've got that bit of quality, they've got that bit of edge that not a lot of players have. And he specifically mentioned Anthony Gordon. He said when we played Everton a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I think, when at the time of recording, that Anthony Gordon, you could see he was sharp, he was physical, he was quick, he could beat a man. He was really, really impressed. And Ben Foster, whether you like him or not, Ben Foster is a 30-odd-year-old Premier League goalkeeper, been playing Premier League football for 20-odd years, been at Manchester United, Birmingham, West Brom, Watford, of course. He's been at a lot of clubs. Ben Foster, very, very seasoned professional. Yes, he mightn't be a Champions League winner, World Cup winner, etc., but he's been around for a long, long time, and he knows football very, very well, Ben Foster. That's why millions of people tune into his YouTube channel to watch him every week. That's why he's still at Watford. Still playing in the Premier League at that age, because he knows a lot about football. So for a fellow footballer to come out and say this lad's got a bit, it shows how his peers ultimately think of him as well, and not only his peers at Everton but his peers at other clubs, which is fantastic to see as well. So listen, for me, I don't think there's any doubting that Anthony Gordon has progressed massively this season, in terms of, as I said, his ability and his physicality and his ability to, not necessarily his technical ability, but more so his ability to be able to deal with Premier League games of football effectively, because he's always had a technical ability. You could go back years and watch him in the under-23s, firing shots in from 25, 35, 45 yards. You know, take your pick, you can go and watch him scoring them. He's always had the technical ability, but there was a question as to whether he had the ability to be able to deal with Premier League games of football, and I think he's shown so far this season that he has had that. A lot of people around football are talking very positively of him, and as I said, I've been very, very impressed with him. Certainly his own quote as well, that quote I've just read out about him saying, you know, he's not winning games for Everton, so he's not, you know, where he wants to be. That's a very, very mature answer, You know, he's not coming out and saying, yeah, I'm doing dead well, aren't I? I'm brilliant, me, I'm in the Premier League at 20. He's coming out and saying, listen, you know, I'm not really focused on what I'm doing well. I'm focused on the fact that I'm not winning games for Everton, and that's where I should be. I do want to talk about his place in the Everton squad, because I think it's really, really interesting. As I said at the start of this team, it's going to be a really interesting couple of weeks for Anthony Gordon. Now, obviously, after the international break, on Sunday we play Manchester City at the Etihad, which is going to be a ridiculously difficult game of football. We all know that. We've then got Brentford away, we've got the Merseyside derby, and we've got a lot of tough fixtures coming up over the coming weeks and months. And as I said, where does Anthony Gordon's place in this Everton side lie when Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Abdoulaye Doucouré return from their injuries? Because, you know, the six in front of the back line with Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Abdoulaye Doucouré fit almost picks itself, really, doesn't it, at the moment? Who do you take out of that to fit in Anthony Gordon? Can you fit in Anthony Gordon around that? We're going to have that conversation in just a moment. But let's get into the live comments before we do that. If you're enjoying the stream, by the way, so far, please hit that like button. It does only take a second to be new to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. That would mean an absolute massive amount to me. If you're watching live, get your thoughts in the comments. That would be brilliant. If you're watching a YouTube video, get your thoughts down below, and we'll get involved with as many of them. Tom says, hi mate, how you doing, Tom? Delamere Bear says, hardly doodly. Yes, my mate, hardly doodly indeedly. Leanne says, I think it's a sad indictment of where our squad is at. Gordon breaking through. Would he get in West Ham's 11? Definitely not. That would... I don't agree with that. I think he would get in West Ham's 11. I think if he was at West Ham, he'd be looked at in a very similar vein to somebody like a Jared Bowen. And again, I'm not saying he's better than Jared Bowen or whatever. Jared Bowen is a very good footballer and probably is, you know, at this moment better than Anthony Gordon, or certainly further ahead in his development than Anthony Gordon is. But I think if he was in that West Ham side, especially that West Ham side managed by David Moyes, I think he'd be getting more than a fair amount of opportunities. Sababy says, hi Cam, I don't think Gordon is good enough. See who he is competing with the Wobie, both no score and assist. I didn't expect this thing, to be fair, but listen, fair enough, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I get it. Look, we can sit here all we like and say, you know, his competition is Alex Iwobi, and listen, we all have difference in opinions on Alex Iwobi, and a lot of people don't like him, and a lot of people don't think he's good enough, and I don't think he's good enough for Everton either. Personally, I've got no problem with Alex Iwobi, but I don't think he's good enough for Everton. But that doesn't mean automatically that Anthony Gordon is, again, you know, you can't talk highly of Anthony Gordon because his competition is Alex Iwobi, and Alex Iwobi isn't good enough for Everton. Anthony Gordon is still, at the moment, and certainly over the last couple of weeks, showing more interest in playing for Everton than probably 99% of this squad, barring maybe Richarlison and maybe one or two others. There's not many players that at the moment seem as interested in playing for this football club as Anthony Gordon does, as interested in winning games, wanting to win games, battling, fighting, giving it 110% as Anthony Gordon is. And that goes a long way, in my opinion, it does. Mozza says, evening everyone, come on you Blues. Is right. Delamere says, seems like you're not world class, you're not worthy. Sounds like City or real fans. Well, yeah, look, he's not world class, but Everton aren't world class. We're not a world class club at the minute. We're not a world class team. So, Leanne says, because West Ham have done what we should have done with a quarter of the budget in a quarter of the time. Our squad is shocking. Only reason Gordon gets another win. I don't know. But listen, Anthony Gordon for me he's got a lot of quality. Anthony Gordon, he's got a lot of technical ability. He's quick. He can beat players, he can take players on, he can put the ball in the box, he can score goals. He hasn't shown it yet for Everton in the Premier League, but he can score goals. You know, he's got a hell of a right and left foot on him. And I think we'll see that in due course. I do think we'll see that in due course. Wimmy says, hi everybody, how's everyone doing? Hi mate, how you doing? Delamere says, Josh King didn't get in our squad, doesn't mean he's not good. Still slapped the attic past us at Goodison. Leanne says, name one top 8 team Gordon starts for, standards are in the bin. I don't even know who's in the top 8 at the moment. Who's in the top 8 at the moment? Let's have a look. I'll accept that challenge. I will accept that challenge because I want to know. EPL. I can't type. Oh my god, I can't type. EPL table. Well, he gets in Arsenal's team. 100% he gets in Arsenal's team. So there's one already. I think he gets in the West Ham. Certainly the West Ham squad. He gets in Brighton's side comfortably, and he gets in Wolves' side comfortably as well. The 3-4 teams in the top 8 that he gets in my opinion. Everyone's got a difference of opinion, of course, but that's just my opinion. Where are we? Delamere says, as for the money Everton have spent, Schneiderlin, Williams, thou shall not be named, Ramirez, and many more will haunt Everton for years to come. If I had Walsh, yeah. No, I agree. Has done for the last 4 or 5 years and will do probably for the next 4 or 5 years. Stuart Atwell is the referee on Sunday against Manchester City. Ayub says we're getting smashed on Saturday, Cam. It's Sunday the game, mate. I hope we haven't got another game on Saturday. I don't think I could cope with watching Everton twice in the space of 2 days. But no, look, again, for me, listen, City, we're going to talk about Manchester City more and more, obviously, as the week goes on. We'll have the game preview out on Friday of the Manchester City game, so we'll talk a little bit more about it then. But listen, I'm not confident at all, but we'll have Rafa Benitez's pre-game press conference on Friday as well, so I'm sure we'll give it an update on injuries. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that thumbs up button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That would mean an absolutely massive amount to me. If you're watching live, get your thoughts in the live comments as we're talking, and if you're watching a YouTube video, get your thoughts down below. James Pringle says for the last few years he's been too good for the under-20s but not good enough for the first team, but he's coming into his own now. He's only 20. FFS, we've got some playing on our hands for the future. I'd agree. Ayub says Gordon is quality and direct. Mozart says agree, James. Ayub says Covite to Covite. Delamere says getting PTSD from back when they were saying DCL didn't deserve a chance. There you go. I remember last season people saying Dominic Calvert-Lewin was a championship player when he'd scored 10 Premier League goals in the space of 2 months, 2.5 months or something like that. People were still saying not good enough for the Premier League, he's a championship player. So you'll never be able to please everybody. Moses says the terrible investment in the last 5 years ain't the lad's fault. He should be surrounded by class at this point and eased into the squad held by class pros. Completely agree, my mate. Thomas says Rich is the same. Yeah, Leon says if we had the squad full of players who were at Gordon's level, would be sitting at the bottom of the table. The kid's got potential, but he probably needs about 5 loans. But that's not the point, is it? If Arsenal had a squad full of players at Emile Smith-Rowe's level, they'd probably be near the bottom, because as good as he is technically, he's not at that consistent level yet, and he's not good enough to, for you to say his quality is one of the best in the Premier League, but he's still one of the best youngsters in the Premier League. He's still got a lot of potential. He's still, again, he's scoring goals, he's helping his team out, he's assisting. Same with Saka. If Arsenal had a team full of Saka, if Arsenal would, again, as you said, a team full of Bukayo Saka, they'd probably be sitting at the bottom of the Premier League table as well. That's not how it works, is it? And I'm not sitting here saying Anthony Gordon's the best player in the world. I'm saying for a young lad, and let's be honest, Everton's academy don't produce many of these young prospects. I mean, let's talk about who Everton's academy have produced over the last 5 years. John Joe Kenny, shite. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was signed. Even Mason Holgate signed. Tom Davis, good squad player, but not, a player that you'd look at and say needs to start week in, week out. Who else have we produced that you can sit here and have a conversation about potentially having a future in the Everton squad? Anthony Gordon at the minute is the only. I know some people will say Lewis Dobbin, Ellison, but they're further down their development stage than Anthony Gordon is. So Anthony Gordon is the one to talk about at the moment, in my opinion. Tom Gibbons says, I want Gordon to replace Townsend when he leaves or retires. Everton out of the race for Luis Diaz. Well out the race. Delamere says Anthony Gordon can be successful being an understudy to Townsend. Will do wonders. The lad already puts more effort in than most of the squad. I agree. Leon says that should be the yardstick. Luis Diaz, Anthony Gordon. But Luis Diaz is never coming to Everton now. He's never coming to Everton. So Moses says watch Diaz recently, he's proper. Philip says Eugene, there's a surprise. Delamere says Moyes' last Everton squad didn't have all the quality in the world, but the players gave it all. Yes, spot on. Damien says alright, Cam, mate, hoping he becomes the player we need. Let's hope so. Were we ever in the race, says Wormy? You need a card to be in the race. we're not in the race now. Put it that way. We're not in the race now. Philip says, hi, Wormy. Moyes had moved on. We've gone backwards. I agree. We have gone backwards. I would agree. Well, that's not Anthony Gordon's fault, is it? We're still on the bike from the overs advert, says Mozza. And Wormy says, hey, Phil, it's got a flat tyre and a puncture. There you go. Anyway, let's get back into talking about Anthony Gordon then and his place in the Everton squad. Big thanks to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. Really do appreciate it. If you're watching this YouTube video, then don't forget to get involved in the comments down below, and we'll get involved with as many of them as we can as well. Leave a like if you're enjoying. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Off the topic a moment, Damien has said in the comments, had a little boy 2 weeks ago, future blue. That's 3 boys, 1 girl, but 4 future blues. Is right, mate. Massive congratulations. Everyone go and say congratulations to Damien in the live comments and in the YouTube comments. Massive congratulations to you, mate. I hope you, the baby, you know, the missus, I hope everybody is well. Massive congratulations, mate. That's absolutely brilliant news. Anyway, yeah, Anthony Gordon's place in this Everton squad. Where does it lie? You know, obviously, we've still got Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Abdoulaye Doucouré to return from injury. The assumption would be that when those 2 players do return from injury, you will have a back four of hopefully Luca Dean, Yerry Mina, probably Ben Godfrey and Seamus Coleman. And then the 6 in front would be Alan, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Andros Townsend, Damari Gray, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. So where does Anthony Gordon fit in to that side? Where does Anthony Gordon fit in to that squad? Is he purely then a squad player coming off the bench and trying to make an impact with 15-20 minutes to go? Is that necessarily the best thing for his development? I don't think it is, because it's nigh on impossible for a footballer to come on with 20 minutes to go in the Premier League and change the game. It's happened before, of course, but it's very difficult for that to happen. And it never really happens with Everton players, do they? Let's be honest. When was the last time an Everton player come on with 20 minutes to go and change the game? Does he become a player that is rotated and maybe we rotate the squad, you know, again, to avoid further injuries in the future? I don't know. But what I do know is that Anthony Gordon ultimately has got a really difficult few weeks coming up for him, and a really difficult few weeks to prove himself and to give Rafa Benitez that headache. I'm not saying that even if Anthony Gordon performs unbelievably over the next couple of weeks or so, it will change the decision from the manager when Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Abdoulaye Doucouré return to fitness. But what Anthony Gordon needs to do now is give Rafa Benitez that headache. What he doesn't want is Rafa Benitez to be sitting there in 5-6 weeks' time when both of them return from injury going, right, thankfully we've got these 2 back. This is the squad. Everybody else is on the bench. Everybody else is sort of a fringe player. We want the manager to be looking at it going, okay, yeah, we've got, you know, Dom back, we've got Abs back, but Anthony Gordon's been unbelievable recently. It's really difficult to take him out the team. Therefore, he's got more of a chance of starting. B, he's got more of a chance of the manager looking at 60 minutes, 50 minutes and going, go on, get a chance. Or alternating one game, you know, Anthony Gordon starts, maybe one game, Andros Townsend starts. Damari Gray hasn't had a rest yet. And again, he needs to have a rest at some point, otherwise he's going to end up being run into the ground and picking up an injury. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, when he does return, again, won't be at 100% fitness straight away. Let's not forget he's been out for 2-3 months. Richarlison still is pulling up with that injury every now and then. So there's plenty of opportunity for Anthony Gordon. But this is the time that he's got to go out and prove that he deserves to be in that conversation. Because at the moment, Alex Iwobi isn't proving he deserves to be in that conversation whatsoever. You know, Solomon Rondon isn't proving he deserves to be in that conversation whatsoever. Neither is, you know, Shenk Tosin or any of the other names. You know, a couple of the other young lads, Ellis Sims, Lewis Dobbin, are further down the line than what Anthony Gordon is. So it's up to Anthony Gordon to go and, you know, show the manager why he deserves to be in that conversation. And I hope he does. I really hope he does, because, as I said, I've been really impressed with him so far this season. And I think if he can keep it up, then he'll get an awful lot more opportunities, and ultimately that's where he wants to be. We don't want to be sitting here in January thinking, right, Anthony Gordon needs to go out on loan because he's not really progressed. I want to be sitting here saying, right, you know, for this game at the weekend, take Damari Gray out, put Anthony Gordon in there. Next weekend we'll have Damari Gray back in there. Anthony Gordon, you know, can come out. We need rotation. You need options. You can't just have 11 players and then them 11 players play every single week until one of them gets an injury, because that's an awful model, and that's how players get, you know, that's how important players get injured, as we've seen so far this season, and that's how your squad and your team and your performances drop drastically. You need to be able to look at it and go, right, okay, look at City, for example. They play a different 11 all the time, and they still win every week, near enough. Liverpool are chopping and changing constantly. One week Jota will be in there, next week Firmino will be in there, Curtis Jones might be in there. You need those options, and Anthony Gordon needs to show that he's not only an option off the bench, but he can also be somebody that, Damari Gray sits on the bench and Anthony Gordon starts, or Andros Townsend sits on the bench and Anthony Gordon starts. That's where he needs to get to, and he's still got a lot of work to get to that point, but I think he's got the motivation now to get to that point, and let's hope he does over the next couple of weeks. Let's get into the live comments then again before we finish up. I can't remember where we were in the comments, to be fair. Pushing it uphill as always, says Philip. Whamey says, has anybody got 2 spoons? We might get Diaz, yeah. Everton plan, we're not after Aaron Ramsey, I believe. Thomas says, bit of a random one, Cam, but are you worried for the derby? I'm absolutely shitting myself, to be honest with you, mate. But to be honest, I'm absolutely shitting myself for every Merseyside derby. Absolutely every Merseyside derby. It doesn't make a difference that this one, to be honest with you. Whamey says, prefer we went after Anthony, though, as a right winger as opposed to left wing. Fair enough. Delamere says, I'd cry if we got Aaron Ramsey playing those ridiculous rates. I don't think we're getting Aaron Ramsey. Saul says, come on, Anthony, back the winner in the derby. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Gordon Ramsay says, Whamey. Gordon Ramsay would be boss, wouldn't he? Getting major heavy scrams at half time. Moses says, Ramsey and Barkley mentioned recently. If there's any truth in those stories, the clown show continues. We spoke about Ross Barkley on Thursday, so if you haven't checked out that live stream, please do so. We had a pretty in-depth conversation about why I don't think Everton should be going anywhere near Ross Barkley. But we done a vote on the stream. Would you take Ross Barkley back at Everton? And more people actually said yes than no, so go and check that one out. It's really, really interesting. Damien, congratulations, says Mozer is right. Delamere says, congrats, Damien. Dan Myers gives a full explanation on the new stadium, says Eugene. Interesting. Saul says he starts for Brighton Defo. He starts for Arsenal Defo as well. Damien says, cheers, Peps. And I read that before. That Ramsey out the question. Too high wage demands. Yeah, not a chance. He gets in Palace's side, says Thomas. I agree. Wayne says, funny, Everton Ramsey out the question because his wages are too high, not because he's old, bang average, and always injured. Well, yeah, listen, he's out the question either way. And let's just be thankful for that. You link with Newcastle, says Philip. Damien says, couldn't agree more with me, mate. Salvi says, Charlie Whittaker is better, should have kept Thierry Small. Charlie Whittaker's better than who? Than Anthony Gordon. Charlie Whittaker's a really, really good, talented young lad, but he's not anywhere near the level Anthony Gordon is in regards to being ready for Premier League football. Not saying he never will be, but he isn't at the moment. Damien says, cheers, pal. Hands full, matey, lol. Delamere says, Thierry Small enjoying that guaranteed football, yeah. Where do you see our next 28 points coming from? It's a big question, that, Stephen. That's a big question. What we're going to do, I think, on Wednesday is we're going to sit down and address our next fixtures, our coming fixtures, how difficult it's going to be, and we'll have that conversation then. So join us on Wednesday around about the same time, 5 o'clock, and we'll have that conversation. Congrats, Damien, says Cyber B is right. Loads of love for Damien in the comments. Love it. Love it. Whamey says, I like Gordon. Got potential, needs to work on composure so we can get some goals and assists. Hopefully we'll see that soon. I agree, my mate. Dick out the OG super sub, says Delamere. You need a squad, mate. You need a squad. You absolutely need to have. If you've got 2 striking positions, you need to have 3 strikers that are competing for them and that are equally as good and can equally play there and can equally swap out. If you've got 2 winger positions, you need 4 wingers that can come in and out. Not 2 that are the best and then 2 others that are a bit shit but can sort of go in there if need be. You need 4 that are as good as each other, fighting out for those positions. That's how you become a successful team. Ethan says, I think he'll come good. I hope he's managed better than Tom Davis. Alex says, hello, Cam, just joined after getting me a haircut. I think Gordon will become a great player. I think he just needs a bit more game time. Is right, mate, is right. Let's hope so. Let's go. Gordon says, Mozzo. Whamey says, I honestly hope they put a Wahobie in Toss and suitcase and send him to Turkey in January. Alex says, I will take Barkley on loan, and if he does sign, if not, don't buy it. A no-lose situation. Well, we spoke about that on Thursday, the loan sort of stuff, and how that would work out as well. So as I said, if you haven't checked out that video, please do so. Cal says, I've always said Barkley had potential more than Grealish and even Foden. He was destined for great things, but has a bad attitude. Yeah, I don't think more than Foden. He was definitely at a level higher than Jack Grealish in his earlier days, but as you said, injuries, I think, beyond everything, attitude and the way he left Everton and this, that and the other, injuries have hindered Ross massively, in my opinion. Anthony, the right winger from Ajax, I was on about Cam. We should go off the over. Oh, yeah. Good player. Really good player. Cal says, don't get me wrong, a fully motivated Barkley, yes, but he will be coming back for the wage. He's close to family. I'd rather promote a youngster. Yeah, Michael says Barkley's decent. And Ethan says, I reckon he can be as good as Ramsey. I don't know who you're referring to then. I really don't know if you're talking about Charlie Whittaker, because he's not a striker, but I don't know. Anyway, look, we're going to finish the live stream up there. And if you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It only takes a second. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Massive thank you to everybody for joining us on this live stream. Really do appreciate it. If you watched a YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comments down below and we'll get involved with as many of them. As I said, we will be back on Wednesday with another live stream, so don't forget to look out for that one. Big thanks for watching. Massive thank you to everybody for getting involved. Pokey says we're going to win a trophy this season. We've only got the FA Cup, so let's hope so. Massive thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. See you after.